Okay, what we're going to do is throw a cylinder vase, so quite a simple cylinder out of 2.5 pound of clay. But what I'm going to show you is the common mistakes that people make throughout throwing this pot. Okay, so the first thing we've got to do is get that piece of clay into the centre of the wheel. And the way I do that is I using this part of my hand here to push in against the side. I intertwine my thumbs at the top there, and this hand just pushes down lightly on the top. So I'm pushing in from the side and down the top at the same time. Now if you notice, my arms are down on the wheel tray, and also this elbow is tight in my side like that, so it keeps your arms nice and still. Also, you don't have to use so much strength. If your arms are up in the air and you're out like this and your pot's off centre, you're using loads of muscles to try and get that into the centre, whereas if you lean down and tuck your elbow into the side, it's much easier to push it into the centre. Also, another common mistake that people make is that once they've got it into the centre, they come away too quickly and they've knocked it off centre again. So whenever you bring your hands away from the clay, really gently away, and then that'll keep in the centre. If you're unsure as to whether it's in the centre or not, if you hold your finger against the side, then it touches the same point all the way around, whereas if it's off centre, it will be knocking your finger like that. Now it's very important to get your piece of clay into the centre of the wheel before you go any further. The next stage is to make your hole in the centre. So you're going to use your fingers just to gently push down into the centre of your piece of clay. You notice that my arms are anchored down onto the wheel tray again to keep them nice and still. The next thing is to make that base wider now. So I'm just going to bring my fingers out nice and gently and evenly from one point. Another common mistake is that people pull their fingers out from 2 points like that. It's very difficult to do it evenly, so you end up knocking that off centre, and I'll show you what I mean. See, that's going off centre now, and the way to correct that would be to get a sponge and push down and re-centre it up again. Okay? So I'm going to carry on bringing the base out wider now. So I'm bringing this out wide and flat, only using pressure from the inside of the pot, not the outside. And you can go across the bottom there to make that nice and flat before we start making the pot bigger. I'm going to take the water out of there just so you can see how flat that is in the middle. Okay, now this pot is going to be about that diameter, so you can see that I've brought that out wider and flatter than you want it to be. The next thing I do is I'm going to push my hands around there to squeeze that back in again. Now if this is off centre at any point, I've just knocked it off to show you again, use that sponge just to push down and get that back in the centre before you do the next stage. It's very important to get every stage right before you go on to the next stage. So now I've got a slight undercut under there, and I'm going to use my finger to tuck under there, and this part of my knuckle is pushing against the outside, and this thumb is collaring in at the same time. So slow the wheel down, and I'm pushing against that finger on the inside and coming up nice and evenly and slowly, and come away. Again, if your top is slightly off centre again, just push it down to centre that up. Now, if you notice on the side of this pot, all the rings join up. I don't remember it, but Billy does, the old vinyl records. The groove is constantly going around. That's what you're aiming for. Another common mistake is that people come up far too quickly. So they're coming up like this. And what that will do gradually is that will knock that off centre. See, that's off centre now on the top. It's very important to get that back in the centre before you go any further. See, at any point you can cup your hands around it to make it narrower before you do the next lift. Down to the bottom again. You're lifting it up. Right to the top, slowly away. Centre the top up again. Down the bottom again. You're lifting up nice and evenly, slowly. So you're going to get a cylinder pot. So most pots will start out from a cylinder. Obviously not bowls and plates, but most shaped pots will start off from a cylinder. The thicker you leave your cylinder, the bigger the shape you can make. So if you're making a really bellied bottle vase, you would leave this quite thick before you put the shape into it. But I'll do that on another one. See how slowly and evenly my fingers are coming up the side of that pot so that it's still in the centre. I'm going to make this top uneven again now to show you how to cut it off with a knife. Hold your pot like that until it touches your finger, stop the wheel, pull it off, then centre that back up again.